Oh, Jesus Christ, Jay. What's your last game of the week here?
That's it. That was it. Hello and welcome. My name is J.E., and with me today is my good old friend, Alexander Gonzalez.
Hello there.
And please remember that we are not game devs. How you doing today, Alex?
I'm doing great, Jay.
I was like, are you going to do the whole thing like that?
No, that would be a disservice to our listeners. I'm doing pretty good. Back from training in my own apartment. It is nice. I have some family visiting. It has been just an exciting last couple months. A lot of change is in the air. How about you? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty okay. No changes over here except for the PS5 coming pretty soon, which is the big change. Unless I
How
don't
does
get it.
stability feel? Does stability feel nice?
Who says anything about stability?
Just no change. I could be drowning just as well as you are. No, go ahead.
But those are not the changes we are talking about today. Today, we are creating something new. Every week, We Are Not Game Devs will create a new, exciting video game idea that we have always wanted to play, but not have any knowledge or know-how to create the wonderful experience that are video games. Today is my turn to present We Are Not Game Devs' 127th IP. Happy Halloween, by the way. I think this comes out
Halloween.
on Halloween? The day before Halloween? I don't know.
Before.
Anyway, happy Halloween, everybody. And I got you a spooky game today. What we're going to do. I have edited this a little bit since the first time I thought of the game because I wrote down what I wanted and then I read my notes and I was like, I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. And so we're going to tweak it a little bit to something different. So,
Okay.
imagine you are character A, male, female, it doesn't matter. You're just dude,
Character
girl,
A.
person driving down the road. Your car breaks down. You look over to the right. There's a big old house over there, and you're like,
Big old house.
all right, let's go borrow a phone. You know what I mean? Or maybe what happens is you got knocked out or something, and then you like someone found you, and there's a big old house. And
Man, that's the worst. It's the bummiest feeling having to borrow a phone because no one wants to let you borrow their phone. Once the phone has switched over from someone's, like how often do you let someone else hold your phone?
Okay,
Not very often.
That's a cell phone though. I think a house phone, most people would be like, fuck yeah, just go use it. I don't care. But a cell phone, because it's $1,000 product that you are handing off to a stranger, at any moment that stranger could just book it. You know what I mean? That's $1,000 product you just handed to that person. You're not trusting that motherfucker with your phone. You know what I mean?
No.
But a house phone doesn't matter. What the fuck are they gonna do with that? And they're the one in need. Anyway, you find yourself in this dude's house.
Feel like we're already at a disadvantage.
Somehow, what's gonna happen is obviously you're gonna notice some interesting things around the house. This man has a bunch of children throughout this home, right?
Okay.
And this man looks in his early 30s, I want to say, and looks pretty good. And he's very nice, hospitable.
So he's a handsome man.
Yeah, he's a good-looking dude and is super nice with all these kids, and these kids are just running around and like you.
And the kids seem to like him.
Yeah, and your first thought probably, oh, this guy has like an orphanage or something. You know what I mean? Or just like has a bunch
now
of kids.
I automatically assume all these kids are wearing about the same thing. For some reason, orphans don't have a lot of choices in clothes.
I would say that they're dressed like I want to say throughout the game, you're probably meeting some of these kids, and obviously the ones that you're interacting with will look different. Like they'll have like characteristics like wearing certain clothes or whatever to have them stand out. But I would say every kid is wearing something a little bit like it's going to be generic. Like they're not wearing like branded shit or anything, but one kid's like wearing a blues tee, another kid's wearing a striped green tee or something. So they're wearing different clothes. They're not like all uniform.
Pants versus shorts. Yeah. Okay.
Eventually, what you're going to find out, and I don't know how you're going to get stuck in this house, and I also don't know how all that's going to work out. But
Hmm.
you find out this gentleman that owns this house is harvesting organs and limbs from these children in order to keep himself young. And I
Maybe some blood too. Maybe he has some
yeah, drinking some blood of the children and blood of the
even worse
virgin or whatever.
transfusions. That way, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Blood baths. Maybe he even goes to that extent.
okay, okay. And I want to say once it turns nighttime and all the children, I'm going to say the children have to go to bed at a certain time. So I guess there's going to be either a story based night cycle where the game's going to progress in time, depending on how far you progress in the story, or there is going to be a real time clock running. I don't know yet exactly what's going to happen. But at night, you're going to see a bunch of spirits and or ghosts of like dead children, right?
There's a
And
lot of puncture wounds, and they also look pretty sucked up because they don't have a lot of blood.
yeah, and I'm gonna guess like the different enemy types in this game is gonna be, and how you would defeat them is gonna be dependent on what organ was harvested from the child. So like there's going to be like the heartless spirit, and then there's going to be a bunch of like spirits without any hearts. You know what I mean? Or like the armless spirits or legless spirits or that type of thing where like these spirits will be missing certain parts, whatever the part that the dude of the house used to kill them, right? Anyway, that's pretty much as far as I've gotten. Just the premise. What do you think?
I think it's morbid. I think I can work with this. There's going to be a bunch of hidden areas in this house, more like a manor, we'll call it. And maybe the first thing you do is when you explore, you accidentally find one of the hidden rooms. And in that will be your first weapon, which is the torture device used on the kids. And you'll have to use that to kind of get out of the house. What's really popular these days would be to have the father have his own kind of cycle that he does, including like he has to go up maybe from this time to this time at night and harvest orphan kids. And before that, he's culling some of the kids to bring into his room. And maybe during those couple of hours, you're able to kind of do what you want undisturbed. But otherwise, he's going to be looking for you or assuming his daily activities. So we'll have one random NPC kind of moving around.
So it's gonna be kind of like a what's the best way to describe, there's always the dude that owns this house is always going to be on the prowl, and
Unless he's doing a scheduled thing, maybe something like, for instance, like I told you, he's getting the bloodletting, and that will be when he's absorbing blood. Or another one would be, we don't disturb father's bath time. Maybe that's when he has a bathtub full of blood and he's like bathing himself in it. So there will be a couple certain events that you'll know he'll be distracted, so you can do certain things in the house.
I've got it. Okay. How about we make it where the owner of the house is always on a schedule, and every day it's going to be the same
For the most part, yeah.
schedule, right? And maybe we'll have like random stuff where what kid would be like, oh, on Sundays he does this at this time, right? And so my theory is you walk in to use the phone or whatever, and you go in and he like asks to stay for dinner while you wait for like the mechanic or whatever to come and that type of shit. But during this opening period, you get caught finding, let's say finding your first weapon, quote unquote.
And torture room, yeah. Or scene.
And from there, he's like, whoa, you found out my secret. I gotta kill you now. And then he kills you, right? But he thought he killed you. You actually survived the attack, and he thought
because he only knows how to use force that's lethal for babies and children.
Sure. I don't know how he didn't realize you weren't dead, but let's just say maybe like one of the kids found you dying and then he like resuscitated
And
you back to
that's
life.
the kid that's going to tell you the schedule. And that's also the kid that's going to end up dying later in the game somehow.
Sure, we could have it worked out that way. But yeah, let's have a kid kind of nurse you back to health. And let's say this kid is one of the older kids that you've seen in this house. And also, this just came to me. This kid is also hiding from the owner of the house. And so now
He's like strangely older.
Yeah.
Like he's able to have escaped for a long period of time at this point.
I would say there's a reason why these kids can't actually leave. Maybe there's some kind of device that's a proximity device where if they leave a certain distance,
What if it's a necklace they can't take off
I would
and it has
think
an explosive?
because that would make it weird for the protagonist when they walk in. Why are all these kids wearing these weird ass necklaces? So I'm assuming it's some kind of implant that the dude puts inside of them.
That makes more sense.
And what I'm assuming is this kid has slowly been gathering a force of children that slowly are realizing this benefactor of theirs is actually a crazy evil demon dude. And so I think the point of this game would probably be you searching this house for clues, learning more about this man and learning more about the house and finding your way through different hidden rooms and corridors and crazy torture rooms and shit like that. And eventually destroying whatever mechanism these kids are bound to and obviously officially killing the big
And
bad and
finding
then freeing everybody.
through different journals and clues left behind, maybe what happened and what led to all of this occurring.
Yeah. And
I'm gonna
where
say
these kids
somebody
come from,
dies.
maybe even.
Yeah, where these kids come from, all of that. I like where this is going. I have a couple essential questions that we have to ask.
Mm-hmm.
This game to me, as I picture it first person, right?
Mhm.
We're going to be looking through the character's eyes, look at the character's hands. It's not going to be a third person kind of game,
Mm-mm.
right?
Yeah, first person.
Okay. So we're going to have different weapons that we can find throughout the game. These weapons, I think it would be fun. What kind of, to cut off my own sentence there, what kind of battling do you want to do? Do you want to do mostly running, mostly you hit and walk away and you get into traps, or do you want there to actually be like a battle system where you're fighting?
So the battle or fighting or whatever you want to call it is going to be pretty hard to pin down. We should probably focus a lot on the combat of this game because
We could do something where there's minor enemies, where maybe there are like rabid children who will say the tainted, and maybe after their first blood transfusion it didn't work out and they try to hunt you or try to hinder you, and you smack them a couple times with the crowbar and they fade out.
So the reason why we have to talk about the combat a little bit more in depth is, first of all, I think there are problems, especially in video games and even in films, is like attacking children is like a big no-no. And so
That's why I think the tainted won't look so much like children.
yeah, I think once the bad guy kills the kids, their spirit transforms into like a demonic being that protects the house type of thing. And maybe that's also why the children can't leave, because there's like the house is kind of keeping the house and the spirits are kind of keeping the people in, you know what I mean? Like if you leave, maybe
Yeah.
a spirit will come and get you type of thing. And like I said, these spirits are going to be missing like certain limbs, and that will give access to what they can do. What I think the combat should be, I don't think it should be like you kill every single spirit in this entire house type of thing. I think it would be more like, I like the idea of like maybe using the things that you find in the house as quote unquote weapons, as like a way to ward off these spirits because they have a fear of how they got killed. So let's say like the heartless ones, they were killed by their chest being opened by like a heart, like a thing that takes hearts out, right? And so when you find that thing that takes kids' hearts out, if you like brandish that in front of a heartless spirit, they'll like get scared and run off, type of thing. But maybe what you would have to do is put it near where it was done. So you'll have an arsenal of torture devices, and like the heartless ones, you'd take the heartless thing and then you'd have to like get it near their heart. And then if you do that, they'll turn around and run. You see like a bone saw and you do that to their either legs or arms, and then they'll turn around and
Oh,
run.
yeah, my gosh.
You know what
So
I
you have to
mean?
learn. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. It's just going to be gruesome
Yeah.
to play. So you're also going to have to find out what happened in these rooms. You can't just run into the rooms. You have to kind of gather clues and put together what's going on. And that would help you with dealing with these specters of the children.
Yeah, and
who
I assume
died.
there's going to be like Resident Evil esque puzzles where you'd have to find this book here and then bring that book over here to unlock this room, type that type of stuff. And then as you progress through the story, you're going to meet other kids that are in the original kids like group. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
these kids will help you out in certain ways. Maybe they could distract the spirits. Maybe they can distract the homeowner. Like, let's say you have to, like, let's say one of the things that you have to do is get into the guy's study at 7 p.m. because at a certain time this thing happens and you have to get in there. But he's always in the study at 7 p.m. So you have to like recruit one of the kids that you met to like lead him out or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
just like the
So
puzzles are going to be very much like probably like sending kids out on distraction missions and then using that distraction to get where you needed to go, but you have to manage, like, you can't send kids out on too danger of a distraction or you could lose your kid, that you're like the kid could get caught, type of thing. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, we got it down for the battle system now. It sounds like.
I do also want to mention at the end of the game when you fight the big bad, he's gonna like very Resident Evil like, but he's gonna like deform and then turn into this big hulking thing with like multiple hearts and multiple limbs, and then you probably got to use the torture devices to like hack off each part, type of thing. You know what I mean?
I like that idea. You're basically using the weapons that he employed against these kids against him and tearing him
Yeah.
down. And then what I want is at the end, the orphans are going to run out and you're going to run up to the nearest person you see, like a neighbor, and you're going to say, "Oh my God, you don't know what's going on." And then the neighbor's going to go around and it's going to look like a very young looking neighbor. And they're actually going to be part of this cult. It was actually a community.
I don't think there's going to be any neighbors per se. Like, this is a big house in the middle of nowhere, type of thing, like the only house there.
Oh, maybe a
Maybe,
gardener,
yeah. Like, I want to
a
say that
groundskeeper, so to say.
there's gonna be other people on the fringes of this property that are employees of this man, and at first you trust these employees thinking no one knows what's going on here, but really, yeah, they're all in on it, type of thing. And maybe these other adults that are on the grounds are, they seem normal at first, but like you said, they seem unusually young and youthful. And I also want to say that they aren't actually human. They are like these creatures that this guy has made in order to work for him, but look human. And I don't even want to say this guy is human either. I want to say like the main
We
thing
can
is they're
I
like
think it's
demons
better
or
to leave it ambiguous.
yeah,
Games are scarier that way. When you over explain scary games, they aren't scary
right.
anymore.
They're just these random things that aren't human. They're not zombies. They're not anything like that. They're not even demons. They're just a monster that does this that we just discovered at this house. And this is the only place that they exist, type of thing.
Okay. So where do you want to go from here? I feel like we definitely have a sense of what this is.
I want to talk about maybe a little bit. So we have like, so it's going to be a day and night cycle. obviously, where like this guy's gonna be on a schedule and you could follow the schedule around and you know where he's gonna be. And then we'll even have like a pull up menu, or maybe it could be like very Persona esque, where after every day has passed, it calendar shows up and tells you what day of the week it is. And then maybe we could even have it like kind of like how Majora's Mask for the 3DS did it, where like you as you learn more things about him, like, oh, I just found out on Sundays he, instead of going to the study at 4, he goes to the observatory at 4, and then you'll like write it down. And so when this count, you could bring up this calendar and like find notes that your character has written down while he learns new things.
The beginning part of this game is going to be really fun because you're going to be hiding and observing and hiding and observing and running away
or talking to all these kids.
Yeah.
Also, another mechanic we could put in there is a currency, quote unquote, where maybe it's like a candy that this guy gives the kids to like as like a not a like, I'm thinking like a dog, but like a treat, you know, like whenever they do something good, he rewards them with this candy, right?
Yeah.
And you could
it can be like it can be a candy that's like blood red, like a little sweet, a hard candy that they eat that they really enjoy.
Or we
because
could have them in multiple colors, and each one is different variants of currency, quote unquote. But it's really just because the kids are like, oh, I really like the yellow ones.
Yeah.
But the red ones we get all the time, type of thing. So red ones count as 1, yellow counts as like 3, green counts as like 5, blue counts as like 10. You know what I mean?
I don't even think we should have that many. I think we should just have 3 tiers.
Yeah.
Where it's why don't we do it the way it always is, make it easier on every gamer, is just do green, very common, they get green all the time. Blue, it's a little bit rare, but the yellow ones are the best by far.
And I would say I would say red is the best by far, but the red ones are like special currency where you only use the red ones for specific things.
Yeah, maybe you only get like 5 of them in a game.
Whereas the other ones, I want to say that they're like randomly generating all the time, because I think these candies are what you're using to buy a kid to do a distraction or buy.
And maybe, you know, it'd be great if you take down a groundskeeper or someone around, you get their candy bag, and that's where you get a refresh of currency. You know, because they bribe the kids too, so that way you can start bribing them.
I would think bringing down the other
you
people,
also get a red candy.
I would say those are where you get the red candies, is beating the mini bosses. And then you use the red candies maybe to offer, maybe there is a kid on his side, and then you have to give the red candy to him to unlock areas or something.
This. The green, blue, and yellow candies are going to be all the currency in the game, like you said. And that's what you're going to get from helping kids on doing side quests, but also to send other kids to do your side quests. Yeah. So it's going to be like this prison bartering system between all the kids, which is great, because then we're going to make main kids have personalities where they're going to have kids under them.
Yeah. Exactly.
That maybe they're controlling too. So there could be a power struggle where maybe not everybody wants to be your friend, or that you have a mini boss in the sense that you may have an older kid that sets up their own hierarchy.
I also think there could be a mechanic in this game where you could either, use the candies to go send them out. Maybe what it is the red candies, instead of unlocking doors, it could be more like the red candies are used to recruit more children onto your side. And eventually you could use like groups of kids to do more complex things that unlock more areas of the room. You know what I mean? So once you get like we said, there's only a max number of red candies, but the red candies are used to grow your army of children. And then once you get a certain amount of kids, you could use like 20 kids to go just use a distraction in the cafeteria where they like do a food fight or something, and that brings a bunch of people over there, type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like to get more people to do bigger scale distractions.
No, I understand. Okay. So there's some meat on these bones now. This game's starting to become something, it feels like.
What do you think it should look like? In my head at first, it was supposed to be kind of ultra realistic looking, but now that there's going to be so many kids involved in this, I feel like it should look more cartoony. So it's not as gross looking as it would be in realistic graphics.
I mean, well, I don't mind realistic graphics because the kids are only going to be depicted as ghosts. Otherwise, we're probably going to have to do some fancy editing when they lose limbs. So maybe, it'll go into a silhouette of a little arm falling off instead
I don't
of
think you're going
it.
to ever see a kid get killed in front of you. I don't think, unless maybe just
No,
one
but
or
even a
two.
silhouette of discovering a room, like the blood and everything, it may just be like a cutscene of it. And maybe you picking up the weapon and then going from there. I still don't mind hyper realistic because I think it would make the ghosts seem cool and it would be much scarier going through the house. But either way,
I'm thinking it should look kind of not to this extreme, but like a Tim Burton esque light, where it's not super super tall, skinny, and creepy looking, but like a mix between Tim Burton art and like more make it look more realistic. You know what I mean?
we can do that. Yeah.
Just so it's not like you walk into a torture room and there's just dripping blood and just you know what I mean. Like there's still gonna
No,
be dripping blood, but it's gonna be more cartoony esque. You know.
Okay.
You don't seem too happy about that.
I'm okay with it. I'm just trying to rack my brain from when I've seen kids get murdered or anything, or if there's a way to go around it.
Mhm.
Because I think with the right depiction, we can do it. I just don't want this to blur into the side of fairy tale
Right.
because of the claymation look. But I don't think that has to happen every time.
Yeah. Let me think. What else could we do?
I think that this is it right here. Otherwise, we'd put too much.
Yeah.
It seems pretty good to me.
So after you beat the guy, you destroy. So let's get rid of that mechanic thing that we were talking about, where like the kids have like something injected, what don't let them leave. Let's just say like the spirits kind of don't let them leave, and maybe there's like one of the guardians kind of brainwashes the kids to like don't think about leaving, don't think about going outside, don't ask too many, and they like do it in like a very motherly way. Maybe that person could be called Mother or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's their role in the house, and that's like one of the big main bosses that you have to beat. And so you'll have like the mother, the gardener, the cook, the housekeeper, and just random like, and then those would be like the main bosses till you beat the main boss. And how boss battles work, we'll touch on that real quick. Since there's no real battle mechanic in this game, it's just more like do one thing and have the spirit run away, but eventually it'll come back. What you're doing to fight is probably going to be more like linear boss battles where you have to like run for a little bit and then you have an opportunity to use one of your weapons, attack them, and then you run, turn around, you have a chance and then attack. And then maybe for boss fights, you could even plan where you could give candy to kids to have them plot around where they'll like slow the enemy down so you'll know that's your attack of opportunity, because the kids once you
what we'll have is during certain boss battles there's always going to be kids on the ground, and these kids are going to be peeking either through bushes, through cracks in the door, through walls, or maybe even just hiding in a corner. And then that's when you could have a button prompt occur if you have the right candy to bribe the child to help you.
That's a good idea.
And then that way you could pass off the candy, and then they'll kind of maybe fade out from the crack, and then all of a sudden when the boss isn't looking, they throw or before the boss swings at you, they throw firecrackers at its feet and stuns it.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good plan. All right. Well, music. I mean, it's gonna have to be like typical.
I've been thinking about this. Yeah, where muted, but also it builds up. Maybe some organ playing,
children laughing,
cellos always great. Oh yeah, children laughing, ambient noise.
Yeah, just very very
Piano isn't that
horror-esque.
scary.
Yeah, like horror-esque music. Cool. Pricing
60,
sounds like a
70.
60. I guess
Yeah.
70 with the upcoming generation of games. Yeah, it seems like it's a full-fledged game. All right, Alex. It's time to start your timer because it's time to name this game.
All right, and we'll go now. The Orphanage.
I mean, that's what I wanted to say.
Then let's do
It's
it.
either the Orphanage or like I also had an idea. What if we called it like something like the organ donor or something, the donor.
No, I think people are gonna mess with that name. The Donor. I think the Orphanage is gonna be best.
The Orphanage. All right, cool.
At 10 seconds.
All right, Alex, you mind giving us a small review of The Orphanage?
The Orphanage is a horror first-person adventure game where you are stuck in an orphanage, having to avoid, what do they call the person in charge of the orphanage?
They'll call him
Father.
No, I think they'll call him.
Too on the nose.
He'll have a name like Mr.
Peabody.
Sure.
Make it really, really wholesome, but it's not.
Something
Mr. Peabody.
You know what I mean? They'll call him by a Mr. something. Mr.
Or just
Man.
Mr. Or just Mr.
No, I think they're going to be more familiar with this guy. Like he's going to be like the cool uncle until he's not.
I see. Okay. So you have found the secret of the orphanage of Mr. Uncle, which is, I think, a cartoon.
That's Uncle Grandpa, but close.
Good. And because of that, he wants to kill you. And he has his mind set on it. And what you found is in this orphanage, he sacrifices the young ones to sustain his youth. You must find your way out, but there's more to the house than it seems in the orphanage.
All right. So I think we have a game here. Alex, what do you think? Would this be a game you'd want to play? And is it fun?
This would be a game I'd want to play. It'd be fun once I got to start bribing a lot of children and I found out my favorites. How about you, Jay?
Yeah, maybe we didn't talk about but maybe certain kids will have like different ways.
You're gonna have favorite kids, and you're gonna have favorite personalities.
Different personalities, and they'll also be an expertise at certain distractions. You know what I mean? Like one dude's good at technology and like hacking lights and stuff like that. One kid's good at food distractions. Anyway, yeah, I think this would be a very fun game. I probably wouldn't play it. We mentioned before, I'm not a big person on horror games, horror films, stuff like that. I've done my fair share of horror games and films and stuff like that, but it's just not for me. I just don't like being scared. But this one doesn't seem like it's the same, the type of scare game stuff that I don't like, which is like jump scares and stuff like that. It's more of just a disturbing feeling that surrounds this. So maybe I'll give it a shot for like a stream or something. But I probably wouldn't pick it up, even if I think the idea of it's really cool. And I always like games that have like a real-time schedule clock that is part of the mechanic of the game, like Majora's Mask that we mentioned before. Like I enjoy those types of game loops. So I think it would be fun, but just not for me.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Now that we have a complete game, what game studio would you assign to make The Orphanage the best?
I mean, if it's super easy, Capcom.
I was going to say
first.
Capcom. Yeah, Capcom is a super easy, just put it out there type of thing.
Fulbright.
What did they make again? Sorry?
Gone Home. That's why I think it would add more characters, keep the story level the same.
I'll give it to, there's 3 developers underneath this game. So I don't know which one is like the main one, but I'll just say all 3. Dynamic Pixels, Hologriff, and Eerie Guest Studios. But essentially, I just want I guess it's Dynamic Pixels is the main guys. But Hello Neighbor. Do you know of Hello Neighbor?
Oh yeah, I've heard of Hello
Yeah.
Neighbor.
I haven't played it, but I've heard of it and what it is about. It's just about this guy that's just wandering around his house and you can't get caught by him, which is essentially what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And I think they could do something cool by bringing Hello Neighbor's ideas and bring it into a fuller, bigger
And
game.
more morbid.
Right,
game.
exactly. I have one more. Do you have any others before we finish that part off or this section off here?
I was thinking about Double Fine because of the art style.
Oh yeah, Double Fine could do something really cool with it. I mean, they don't normally go
and
as
they always work
morbid.
with kids
Yeah.
too, in the sense. So
like Costume
it would be cool to
Quest
see.
yeah.
There's a certain kind of horror genre where you're looking through a child's eyes, so it's a little bit more innocent, so it's like an Innocence Lost kind of thing that I think they could do.
I'm gonna give it to Frictional Games and the Chinese Room. Oh, I love the Chinese Room. Anyway, Frictional Games. Sorry. They're the guys behind Amnesia, which has a recent resurgence. But
It's so funny. I played Amnesia with you like once.
Oh, way back in
on-
college?
Yeah, when we were on some random trip,
Yeah.
and then never again.
Amnesia's scary, man. Like the old one, I don't know how the remake or remaster or reboot or whatever this new one that just came out is, but for the time, it was top-notch scary. You know what I mean? A lot of horror games have come out since Amnesia that took a lot of what Amnesia did and just built on top of it. But yeah, I think they would do something crazy with that. And with that, 127th IP has gone gold. We hope you look forward to this experience. I'll probably never release. You could write to appboundgames@gmail.com if you have anything to patch into the game we created today. Also, give us feedback. We're still learning how to make the show better, and your feedback really helps. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to back our ideas, please head over to patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. Patrons receive episodes 2 days early and an extra podcast at the beginning, which caught the tail end of our conversation at the beginning of this episode. That's patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. If you liked our show, why not subscribe and give us all the stars on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Spotify, YouTube, and more. And if they ask for a review, instead of reviewing our show, become your inner game critic and review the Orphanage, the video game we just created. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next Friday with another new IP. Again, my name's Jay Yee.
And I'm Alexander Gonzalez.
Thank you, and please remember that we are not game devs. No AG this time?
I know. I realized as soon as I said it. My folly.